deserve healthcare. And I'm like, okay, let's talk about after we stop blowing up kids in Yemen and Pakistan.
Agreed.
And so when Donald Trump comes in and he's like, no new wars, timeline for getting our troops out, get our troops out of Syria, and we watch the deep state lie to the American people and Trump to keep troops in Syria. The only, like, I'll say Trump should not have fired 59 Tomahawk missiles at Syria. That's the one time the press started praising him.
Right, or the Moab, yeah.
So I look at anything else, and my view really is, and y'all can disagree with me, by all means, spam in the chat once. My attitude is, my priorities over my view of, say, like, the COVID lockdown stuff and Donald Trump's role in it is a much lower priority to the United States spending American taxpayer dollars, or what I should say is extracting our buying power in order to wage war in foreign countries. So when someone says, yeah, but Trump did this COVID thing, I'm like, you know what, I gotta be honest. I'd be willing to accept penance in terms of some detriment to my quality of life if it means the U.S. stopped doing all of that. To be fair, the reality is the inverse. If the U.S. stops doing all that, in fact, there's quite a good argument our lives will improve.
I agree.
So, I'll take Trump.
That's a really important point, because there's this kind of myth that I think that the American people have been sold, that in some way we have benefited, the average American has somehow benefited from the empire. It couldn't be further from the truth. Our purchasing power is declining very rapidly. All of the people that have actually benefited from it have been the worst corporations, if not in modern era, then maybe in all of human history. Some of the worst actors out there, the Boeings and all these other companies that are actually literally just profiting by the billions based off of death and destruction of innocent people. It's horrific. But there's this belief that, like, we have to police the world to kind of make it safe for the global economy. That people don't consider the fact that all of these other nations have the same imperative. They have the same desire to have safe shipping lanes. There is no actual requirement that the American government be the policeman of the world. We ought to handle regional security. Russia and China ought to be handling their portions of the Pacific to keep it safe, and we ought to be handling ours. But that's not how it's been. It's been the American empire is expected to go and police everything, and it is absolutely bankrupting us.
I just want to point something out too, based on what I just said. I mean, I don't know if it's coincidental at all that 2019 we see the best numbers of our lives economically. I'm not talking about government spending and stuff. We can absolutely criticize all that, but unemployment is way down. Wage growth is improving. People are expressing this in polls at the same time that Donald Trump is actively working against the war machine. And I'm not saying I can definitively prove one for one that's what it's all about, but I would like to just live in that reality. So by all means, please knock me out of it. Prove to me that our economy doing well in this time frame and Donald Trump's positions on rejecting wars are totally unrelated, but I will accept it and I will roll that dice again. If Donald Trump can recreate 2018 and 2019 and further those missions, it's there. And let him say all the naughty things, let him say all the nasty things, and all of my views on how bad 2020 was, I'm just like, if the end result is we go through a hard period, but 4 years later, our borders are more secure, manufacturing has come back, we're no longer doing these insane trade deals with China, the American economy has dramatically improved, and the foreign wars have been whittled down. The U.S., now our allies are actually paying their fair share as we pull our troops back, because they shouldn't be in many of these countries. I mean, that is like a dream.
Yeah, well,
I don't think that Donald Trump is a genie who can make it all just perfectly come true. Right. But we had a little taste of it in his first term,
and it wasn't so bad. I get the argument. I totally get the argument that here's the issue: because I come from the Austrian economics backdrop, and because I was a finance guy, I look at this and I look at the elevated inflationary pressure that we're dealing with nearing on $34 trillion in our national debt. You have all of the debt carry that's necessary for that debt. It's ultimately going to really put a damper on growth. GDP broadly. I think that we're facing a very severe recession. The other thing that people aren't really privy to is that because of the elevated interest rate cycle, all of the long-term debt instruments that the banks filled their books with over the past couple of years when the interest rates were at record lows, those are now upside down to the tunes of billions and billions and billions of dollars. So you have a potential banking contagion coinciding perfectly.
I couldn't hear you. What? Alright, I'll go get him in a second. Gotcha, bitch.